then I'm going to maintain my earlier directions in terms of bail, such that if Mwendwa was able to deposit the 4 million shillings, then he will stay out for the period of 7 days, within which the state is at liberty. They can prepare a charge sheet, they can register the charge sheet and charge Mwendwa with whatever offense that they would like to charge them. So what the court has just said is that for the 7 days, Mwendwa is supposed to be out on bond, on bail, as per the earlier conditions, which include not visiting the stadium, which include not interfering with witnesses, not contacting employees of the federation. Those earlier terms have been maintained, but they have been maintained for only 7 days. If within 7 days the state does not take steps to charge Mwendwa, then this case or this file, which is a miscellaneous file, will stand closed, which means that there will be no terms within which Mwendwa would be operating on, in terms of there will be no restriction. He'll be out of the court's jurisdiction, or he will not be in the hands of the court anymore after 7 days. That's basically the interpretation.
A ruling that maybe favors you and Mwendwa on his side. What do you make of it? Is justified?
Sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
Ruling for you and for your team.
Yes.
What do you make of it?
Well, in our view, objectively, of course, the ruling is well reasoned. If you looked at the affidavit in support of the application, and by the way, Section 36A is mandatory in terms of if you bring a person to court by a miscellaneous application wanting to detain them for more than 24 hours, then the law, that is Section 36A of the Criminal Procedure Code, gives you an obligation, requires you to put it in writing through an affidavit to state the reasons. If you looked at the affidavit, which I think you have, those 4 grounds were not really reasons, and I think the court was right in making that determination.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mutula.
Even when I began asking about the inspection on 2nd of November on the floor of the Senate, my mind was very clear, like it is clear now, that any attempt to find fault in Mwendwa in the manner they have attempted to do so is unlawful. I am of the same opinion that, and I will say this with my eyes closed, that even if they charge him based on that inspection report, it's wrong, because the Sports Act and its regulations require that FKF should be given an opportunity to comment on that report before they take action. I said this over the weekend and I'll repeat. The only thing that they wanted was to remove Nick Mwendwa out of office. They are now stuck because FIFA has said put back Nick in office. We will discuss it when he's in the office, and that's why they have sought for a meeting. Because you cannot violate the rights of Nick Mwendwa. You cannot violate the constitution so that you satisfy what I call political expediency, and then painting Mwendwa black, you know, give a dog a bad name and then kill it, so that you make Nick Mwendwa look as if ideally he's a criminal, he is corrupt and whatever it is, without a basis. We have evidence, we have tabled information that shows, in fact, it is the Cabinet Secretary of Sports who ought to answer the question as to why our records show that she has given FKF more money than they have received. And we'll continue asking those questions, whether they charge Nick or not, because the law must be followed. The Cabinet Secretary is not above the law. The politics of this country should never ever get into sports. We can play politics in the diocese, but insofar as sports is concerned, the government of Kenya should stay back. The reason why we are facing all these bans is because the government of Kenya has interfered, is interfering with sports. And we did not tell them at any time, do not inspect. We are happy for them to inspect, but inspect, follow the process, charge if you need to charge, but at the same time don't interfere, use blackmail, paint everybody looking bad, and then now the court is right. They say between Friday and Sunday, how is it that the state could not make up its mind whether to charge him or not? And I'm glad that the court finds it's in bad faith, it's malicious, and we were right all along that they violated the process, and we now wait. But even if, as we wait, it's not going to change our position about this matter. We will still challenge the charge if they bring it.
Okay, looking at it, there's a new thing that they should be handcuffed. Somebody who has authority, who's holding position of power.
Those who understand criminal jurisprudence and criminal law and the right of innocence, which is primary. In fact, by the way, the only right that is not encumbered by anything in the Constitution is the right not to detention. That's one, and the other one is a fair trial. There is no exception in the law. So when you bring Nick Mwendwa into court, and when we went to see him with my good friend, he didn't have handcuffs at DCI, at Gigiri. When he comes to court, they must humiliate him by putting him in handcuffs and then showing that he's a criminal. That is why Dr. Aminwa says it imputes in the eyes of the public that he is a criminal. That's really what they want to achieve. And is something that we must resist, because unless a person resists arrest, you are not supposed to handcuff him. That is the jurisprudence that is followed all over the world. I've not seen it happening here, and it's very wrong. For somebody to just walk here and handcuffs, and when they walk back into the cell, you remove the handcuffs. And it's important, and I would have preferred, in fact, my sort of a finding or a ruling from the courts. And this is a matter that ought to, for criminal justice system, the lawyers ought to continue hammering this point, that we are not going to reform the criminal justice system when you handcuff people who are not supposed to be handcuffed unless they have resisted arrest, and even going into prison. There's a way that we ought to reform the system so that you give prominence to innocence. Give prominence to the right of innocent persons. Thank you.
One more question.
Yes.
And what do you make of the fact that Samina has failed to honor summons?
I'm not surprised that CS Amina has not honored summons. In fact, in my case, she has refused to answer the questions, because those questions that I posed to the ministry cannot be answered without the cabinet secretary showing that what she was doing before the inspection was malicious. I pointed just one aspect, that the persons who went to Nick Mwendwa's to FKF were DCI officers and NIS officers. It has been proved. The person who saw the affidavit here is a DCI officer. So I was right, that if you're truly doing an inspection, why would you send DCI? You ideally would send an auditor. It is the auditor who will tell you that there's a problem. But then you send a DCI officer to go and do audit, and then you come up and say money has been stolen. That's what I was trying to demonstrate. Thank you.